Hi there. I'm glad you found Coffee Talks with Jane. I'm Jane Northrop Glenn. I'm an author, problem solver, follower of Jesus, and lover of people. I believe that humans matter more than programs and departments. And for me, God is the source of my own personal comfort, provision, and protection. Not the government, not elected officials, and not political parties. My faith is both supernatural and practical. I thought before we talk about faith, freedom, difficult times, politics, work, family, my books, and probably anything else we're going to talk about here, I should tell you a little bit about why I'm sitting in front of this camera right now. Although sitting in front of it again would be more accurate. This isn't the first time I've picked up a trumpet and tried to blow into it. Have you ever tried to blow into a trumpet? The first few times you do it, you get a strange noise that sounds like a rhinoceros in pain, and a lot of spit that sprays out the side of your mouth and drool that slides down your chin. It's gross. I know this from 6th grade, by the way. So let me explain why I'm picking up the instrument one more time, hoping that this time the trumpet makes rhinos sound healthy again. But let me be clear, I believe that trumpets and rhinos, healthy or unhealthy, and donkeys too, are ultimately equally irrelevant in determining my future. A few years ago, I found myself on the couch crying out to my Lord, and I mean really crying. Not because of one specific thing, it was more like the weight of 1,000 little things. Life had changed. I had recently moved back to Colorado Springs after living in Fort Collins for 30 years. I grew up in Colorado Springs in the 70s and 80s, and I have wonderful memories of my childhood. But my home was in Fort Collins. That's where my family still is. Fort Collins was my community, and I had been immersed in it socially and professionally for decades. But I genuinely believed that an act of obedience to Jesus led me back to where I grew up. So there I was, on the couch. Shortly after I moved, I resigned from a job and started driving Lyft so I could write a book. Then COVID turned the world upside down. On the couch, I felt the weight of everything at once. I was discouraged, isolated, frustrated, sad, even angry. And if I'm being completely honest, I started wondering if I had gotten some things wrong. Maybe I was hearing God wrong. Lord, I'm at a crossroads, I said. I need to hear from you. I love you so much. I wrote 2 books for you. I thought you'd bless me financially through them, but you haven't. As a matter of fact, no one wants to even hear what's in them. Am I making this stuff up? I need to know if you're really saying these things to me. I don't ask you for a sign often, but I'm asking for one now. I need to know. I don't want to be a liar, and I don't want to be unlikable for no good reason. If I'm hearing you, please give me a sign. And oh, by the way, the sign has to be personal. I don't want to see a cross in the sky, because then my neighbor's going to text me and she's going to say, hey, did you see the cross in the sky? And I'll text her back and say, yeah, and so did everybody else. So Lord, it has to be personal. If you tell me I'm hearing from you, I will double down on serving you no matter what people think of me. But if I am making this up, I'm going to stop. What I was really asking wasn't whether God existed. I know he exists. What I was asking was whether I was hearing him accurately. Within 10 seconds, a welt began to form on my left forearm. I ran downstairs to where my husband, Daryl Glenn, was working out. This man is the reason I returned to Colorado Springs. I showed him my arm and he said, wow, it looks like you've been branded. I can't explain it scientifically, and I'm not asking anyone else to believe it happened the way that I experienced it. I can only tell you that in that moment, God had answered my question. So here I am in front of the camera again. Looking back, I realized the moment on the couch didn't come out of nowhere. It was a culmination of everything I had already experienced and even things I hadn't yet experienced. Things I would learn between then and now. Long before the couch moment, driving Lyft, publishing my books, attempting a radio show, and now this YouTube channel, I had been helping people navigate difficult situations. Some were coming out of prison, others were business owners, single moms, grandparents, young people, and juveniles. After the couch moment, I continued to drive Lyft through the entire pandemic, and I helped people in different ways that I wouldn't have come up with on my own. This included guiding a homeless elderly man and his dog find permanent housing, and who eventually became a part of our extended family. My husband and I helped him ourselves without relying on legislation, with no regard to programs or departments, and without receiving a penny from the government. Just God. That was 5 years ago, and we're still besties with him. I literally had a front row seat during this time, the driver's seat, to see people struggling. My life intersected with over 6,000 strangers' lives, and I watched people carry burdens that they weren't meant to carry alone. At first, I thought I was seeing separate problems: housing, loneliness, family breakdown, re-entry, addiction, financial stress, political strife, wavering faith. You know the stuff. But eventually I realized they weren't separate problems at all. People were overwhelmed, disconnected, lonely, exhausted, nervous, anxious, confused, even afraid of what was taking place, uncertain about the future. They were lost, not knowing who or what could or would help them. And somewhere along the way, I stopped asking, what in the world is going on, Lord, and how long do we have to endure this? And I started asking, Lord, how do we walk through the difficult days ahead well? How do we become harder to shake? How do we stay hopeful? How do we lay down our self-preservation and genuinely meet each other's needs? So that's why I'm really here. Not because I have all the answers, I certainly don't. But I do love Jesus, and I do care deeply about people. And I do have some ideas and possible solutions that I'd like to discuss with you. So, some weeks we'll talk about my books, God Punched Back and God's Public Option. Sometimes I'll share my tales from the Lyft. Sometimes we'll wrestle with hard questions through what I call Friday night fights between God and government. Sometimes we'll talk about practical ways to navigate rough terrain. And sometimes we'll simply sit down and have an honest coffee talk about life, faith, family, forgiveness, purpose, and what God might be teaching us through these hard seasons. So wherever you are in this interesting time that we're in, pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and let's chat. You can learn more about me and my free ministry, Ask Jane, at janenorthropglenn.com. Wow. See you next time.